Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Myers, your Broadway and Entertainment BFF, and you're watching another episode of my live digital talk show series, Live with Rye. I'm so thrilled you are joining me. Listen, I have a huge favor to ask of you. If you're joining on YouTube, smash that subscribe button and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss an episode of Live with Rye. You get notified every time I go live, every time I post a new video. You definitely should do it. And hey, it's helping me out too. And lastly, listen, I love doing what I do, being able to bring you some of the best interviews with people in the entertainment, Broadway, and pop culture industry while focusing on positive and good news, but can't do it without your help. So if you are so inclined, I'd love if you consider donating and helping to support my platform, ridethenewsguy.com, and everything I'm doing. You can go to ridethenewsguy.com/donate, which is the button you see right there. It's also scrolling across the bottom of your screen. And if you're joining us on a laptop or a computer, you can scan this QR code and it'll take you there as well. I just want to thank you for your continued love and support. It means the world to me. And again, it's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. With that, let me welcome my very special guest, Emily McGill. Hi, Emily.
Oh, hello.
So great to see you again.
You too.
So thank you for joining us. Hey, why don't you quickly tell us a little bit about yourself and your career?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Emily McGill. I am a self-described recovering Broadway publicist. I now do a lot of communications consulting for different organizations in and around the Broadway community and outside of it as well. But I also am a tarot card reader. And so that is why we're here today to explore the tarot, right? Thank you so much for being open and willing and interested.
Oh, I'm always willing and open and interested, especially to help somebody like you explore this even more. How did you get started before we begin, how did you get started in tarot card reading? Where did the discovery come from?
Yeah, so my therapist actually introduced me to tarot.
Wow.
My grandmother passed away in 2014, and I was working on some very challenging shows that I was assigned to, and it was a really emotional time. So I started working with a therapist, and a few weeks in, she had me start pulling cards sometimes in my sessions. And then when I was looking for a daily practice to add to my life, she suggested I pull a card every day. And so I started doing that. And fast forward to 2020, and pre-pandemic, I was gifted a deck of my own. I downloaded an app. When she suggested I start pulling a card, there was an app on my phone. So I was like, oh, great. This is fantastic. I'll get rid of the red bubble. It'll be great. And so I started using that app to teach myself, the different meanings of the cards and things like that. And then from there was gifted a deck and started, being able to read for other people. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And so I started doing digital readings with folks. And so it's been a lot of fun to explore the tarot and introduce people to it.
Well, that's very exciting. What an exciting journey that you've been on, leading you to tarot card reading. So, let's begin.
Great. So I'm gonna do a few just sort of facts and things about the tarot to help you understand better when we start pulling cards. So the tarot is made up of two halves of the deck. We have the major arcana, which are our magic cards, I like to call them, right? When they show up, we want to pay extra special attention to them. There are 22 of them. They're numbered from 0 to 21. And they start with the Fool, which is sort of the and we're off, away we go on our journey energy, very, very trusting, very willing to fail again and again and again and again, kind of a novice, but very excited energy. All the way up through the World, which is sort of this completion, whole, healed, holy kind of idea. And so those cards also correspond to the human soul's emotional evolution and sort of spiritual evolution. And then the minor arcana is set up much more like a traditional playing deck. So you have 4 suits. We have, in this case, wands, cups, swords. They call them swords in this one, and discs or pentacles. And they correspond to the 4 elements. So wands are fire, cups are water, swords are air, and discs are earth, pentacles, earth. So, and they each also correspond to different things, right? Fire is like our creativity, our energy, our passion, the things that drive us, that sort of light us up. Then we have our water is our emotions, how we feel, how we relate to the world, that sort of like depth that we have. Air is mental, all the mind, the intellect, wisdom in that sense. They have, and then earth is very physical, right? So it's material, it's physical, it's tangible. And so each of those suits has the traditional ace through 10, but then we also have the 4 court cards instead of 3. So you have your king and your queen, and then you have a knight or a prince, and then a page or a princess, depending on the deck that you're using. This particular deck that I'm using today is called True Heart Intuitive Tarot, and it's by Rachel True, who is an amazing actress, best known for the craft, but also for, oh my gosh, my brain has like completely gone away from me. Dave Chappelle, when he's the weed dealer and she's Mary Jane and she doesn't want him. Oh my God, it's like a typical stoner movie. And now it's like completely changed my mind. But yeah, so she's amazing.
Is it half-baked?
Half-baked! Yes!
I just looked it up.
Excellent. Yeah, well, 420, I should have known, But but yeah, so she's an amazing actress and also just an awesome human. I don't know her personally, but from what I've seen of her in the world. And she has this beautiful deck. So that's the one we're using today. And so this has king, queen, prince, and princess. In some decks, you might see it as a sort of traditional family structure, father, mother, son, and daughter. It's really dependent on the creator of the deck and the artist and what sort of they resonate most with. And so the minor arcana, those court cards sort of correspond to humans and people, or the qualities that those cards represent in ourselves or people in our lives. And then the pip cards, which are the ace through 10 cards, they sort of have more of a like situational or experiential, kind of vibe. So there are 2 different ways we can do this today. So we can either do this as a reading directly for you, or we can do something that's a little more interactive with your viewers. So what do you think?
Well, I was, how about towards me, if that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Towards me. I think it'll still give the viewers still a vibe of how everything works.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to shuffle the cards a little bit, and I'm going to ask you to keep in mind sort of like a question or a topic or, an idea, something that you want to explore. Because I like to say that the tarot is an external or a visual representation of information we already hold within ourselves. It's internal information given to you in a new perspective. So it's a really great way to, if you're questioning something or you're not sure about something, to sort of get comfortable with that question and see what the answer might be.
Great.
Cool. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do one more shuffle. And the first thing I'm going to have you do is cut the deck.
All right.
So you're going to tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. So today we're going to pull 3 cards.
Okay.
This is my favorite 3-card pull. And so whatever it is that we are exploring today, which you are welcome to share or you do not have to, though it does sometimes help quite a bit when one does.
Yes.
The first card will be what will help you. Our second card is what will hinder you. And our third card is your unrealized potential.
Okay.
Okay.
I like this.
Yeah. So the first card I'm pulling is the 5 of Swords. And the fives are often, sorry, I'm like trying to figure out my
Sorry.
The fives are often more of a challenging card. We find they can sometimes have scary meanings. You kind of see this is the five of swords. So remember, our swords are our mental, our air, our intelligence, our communication, how we communicate with ourselves and with the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so the five of swords, I mean, we see like there's a sword through that eyeball, so that's pretty painful. And there are four more swords sort of pointing at it, kind of holding it in place, saying like, you're not going anywhere. And I'm not sure if you can tell. I think you probably can though. This card is reversed. Do you see that? Do you see that it's upside down?
Oh, yes, now I see. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this is the way the card normally would look if it was not reversed. Okay. And reversals are read different ways in the tarot. Some people like to read them as the inverse or the negative version of a card. Some people like to read them. I personally like to see it as an internal representation of this card versus external. Mm-hmm. And because I believe all the cards hold all of the qualities of them, right? Both the positive and the negative, the high vibe and low vibe, right? So we'll flip this one back over because this one is one that doesn't look all that different, but you see like it's sort of holding that eye on the bottom of the sword. Whereas when we turn it upright, it's sort of like being plunged through the eye.
I see. Yeah.
I see that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at it this way, which is how we pulled it, how it was, we see that this is this uncomfortable sort of discomfort, being maybe backed into a corner a little bit. But the interesting part is this is the card that said this is what will help you. And so I'm curious about how this is speaking to you and what all of that is saying to you.
I think that's really interesting. You said that. I think right now where I feel sort of back into a corner is with my career and with what sort of the future holds. It's sort of sometimes is like I take 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, but you're being held, whether it's, current situation or, what's going on. But I have felt, especially in the last sort of few months, that there is sort of this trap and stuck. So that's how I understand, and that makes sense. That's how I've been feeling with.
And was career what you wanted to explore today?
Yeah, career and future, but that's
general, just their future generally, like what might be ahead for you.
Right. Yeah. And I guess specifically career, because that's where I've been focusing most of the time the last few months specifically. And that's where I'm working constantly sort of day in and day out on. Yeah. Excellent. Great. So we're seeing like, okay. And this is interesting that this is what will help you. So what I read from that is like oftentimes when we get backed into a corner, we have to get really creative about how we're getting out of it. And so that to me is like saying like this, what will help you is that like, you're going to have to figure it out. Like you're going to have to sort of, it might be about getting quiet and like sitting with yourself and being reflective. It might be about like trying new stuff. It might be about taking a class in something. Like I have no idea, what the specifics of it are, because I also don't like tarot is not something that predicts your future. Right. It's, as I said, it's a representation of information we already hold within ourselves. And so sometimes it helps us gain new perspective on how we might approach our future, but it's not going to tell us our future. Right. Right.
And so like, what's going to help you is like, getting to that point where you're like, okay, I can't continue doing what I've been doing. There's a change that needs to be made. Like something is about to change. That seems to be what this is saying to me. Does that resonate for you? Is that feeling?
Yes, it does. It does. For sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Anything else you want to say on this card?
No, I mean, just that is, it's pretty unique. And I guess, it makes sense because it's one of the many feelings, but one of the more stronger ones that I've been, feeling. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy. The cards never lie. They just don't.
Yeah.
All right. So our next card is the 7 of Discs. This is what's going to hinder you.
Okay.
All right. So our 7 of Discs. Sorry, my light is like being reflective. I'm trying to. There we
No,
go.
it's good. Mm-hmm.
Let's get it this way so you can see the whole thing. Our 7 of Discs is, we see this is a person sort of tending the garden of giant stone heads that are in their garden. The discs or pentacles, remember, is our earthly, our material, our physical sign. So we want to consider that, there's work being done here. The seeds have clearly been planted, like the foundational work has been done in building this garden. Now it's a matter of tending it. And again, we see it's reversed, right? So again, this sort of internal idea of tending to your own garden. And this is what will hinder you. So I wonder if this is saying that, like, is maybe like a warning against over tending.
Is to others?
I don't know. To others, to yourself, to your career, to your life, to to your pets. I don't know.
When you say overtending, you mean like sort of taken care of, or sort of like focus, like,
yeah. So you think about, like, I'm a crazy plant lady, and I love to pay attention to my plants. But if I overwater them and I give them too much care, that is not healthy for them. They get root rot and they die. Yes. So it's the idea of not pouring out your own self, maybe so much to tend to others, and maybe to tend to your own garden for a while, perhaps could be what it's saying.
You get it now. Yeah.
Because when you look at it too, right, in the upright, it's a pretty different card.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but it isn't. But we see her, this woman is pregnant, right? So she's, the seeds have been planted, but there's nothing to do but wait at that point, right? And just continue caring her for her self-care. Right. The sun, it looks like it could be coming up or going down. We're not really sure if this is dawn or dusk. And those heads could be, they could all be, that could be perspective. They could be huge, like the one that's right behind her, or they could be super tiny, like the one that's in front of her.
Right. So I see what you mean. I think with the tending part, and now that you say of it, I tend to, looking at that, especially recently, overtend, I think, too much to myself. And I think maybe that's what that is saying. I've spent a lot of time recently way engulfed in career focus, in focus of I have to do this, I have to do that, overtending that I haven't been giving myself the respected time to just relax, to cope, to meditate, to get out of my head. And I do tend to overextend in the tending part of, really, I guess, as you said, water the plants too much. I mean, I don't know that analogy, and not pulling back and understanding that pulling back and tending is okay. And I think it also does go hand in hand with others too. I mean, it's been tough with the pandemic, but I am generally somebody that does put others sometimes before myself mostly, and does really want and forgets about the true purpose of yourself. So I can see it being on both scale, but definitely I do see that the overtending part, it's
right. To leave it the space to breathe a little bit and grow a little bit, and not, get your pruners out and cut back every leaf that you think is the wrong one. If, turning your career of a bonsai, right? If we're going to keep using this analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what will hinder you is the overtending. And I think this is also like, there's something in here too about patience, right? Because she's pregnant. Like there's something in here about you need to be patient with yourself, with others, with the process, that like trust that it's happening. You don't have to always be doing something
right
for it to be happening.
That's something that I'm trying, but I'm very not
hard.
Yeah, patience and trusting, as you said, trusting the process, because I'm somebody that is not me, but it's like, why hasn't it happened? Why isn't it this? So, yeah, you're right.
Divine timing.
Yes,
it's not up to us. Also, like, what is time? We've learned in this pandemic, like, it's totally a construct. So
you're 100%
right. So just to give you, wait, is this the right or the left for you?
So it's on I'm looking at it from my left.
Okay, excellent. So now we've got, just so you can see, cards 1 and 2 that we pulled, right? We've got our 5 of swords and our 7 of discs, sorry. And it's like, okay, so what's helping you is that you are sort of backed into this, or backing into a bit of a corner. And what's hindering you is overtending 2 things. So now we're going to pull our last card. And this one is the 10 of swords.
Okay.
And that's also kind of looks like an icky card, right? Like,
painful.
Yeah, right. Totally. So this is the 10 of swords. Again, remember, swords are our mental, our emotional, not emotional, sorry, our mental, our communicative, our intellectual, right, being. So that tracks with the work aspect of what you wanted to explore. And again, reversed. So again, internal. And then when we do flip it, we see like it's a person who's sort of been stabbed in the back with 10 swords under a full moon. And like the moon represents our intuition, our spirituality, our deeper inner self, our shadow self, maybe our not great qualities of ourselves that we, tend to shame ourselves for and things like that. But when we flip it over, we kind of get a different perspective on this, right? Like it still looks painful,
right?
But now she's sort of like floating above like this history of pain, right? Like this is like a history of pain that's like her intuition is giving her all of that. Yes. And now she's like sort of kind of ascending beyond it. And this card represents your untapped potential, right? So I think that sort of would say this is an opportunity for you to sort of be ascending. Like you're going to find your ascension. You just haven't quite tapped into it yet.
Yeah.
What's it saying to you?
Yeah, that is, just really what you described. I mean, I do have that feeling that it is coming and happening, that ascension, and every day I feel like one day is more of an ascension, but the ascension that I see, that I want, that I hope, I do see on the horizon, and I do see it there, but it's sort of, as we said, with time, when and how is what's hindering, but I do see, yeah.
Have you ever seen those? It's I feel like it's like an Instagram meme where it's like expectation versus reality, and the expectation is like a straight, like the line goes straight up, and like and then the reality is like
yes.
And like backward, and like I feel that's kind of what this also says to me. It's like the way we think it's gonna look is never how it actually looks.
Yeah.
And that like it's within you. And there's something that I have learned over the last couple of years that I'm still working on, actually like learning, but I've learned it. And that is that pain is not here to hurt us. Pain is here to give us awareness, to show us where things aren't working, to show us where there might be a challenge, to show us where we might need to step up and step out and like make a change in something. You know, I've been in physical therapy for my shoulder. It was killing me. Well, I was sitting in a armchair on my computer for, you know, how many hours a day, like this.
Right.
And the physical therapist is like, it's all postural. Like you have to change your posture and your shoulder will stop hurting. And so, you know, that's like been the practice now of like, okay, I got to actually like make sure my shoulder blades are down and back so my shoulder doesn't hurt. And it wasn't actually anything about my shoulder. It was just the pain to say, there's something that's not right here. We need to make an adjustment. And so it's the awareness of it versus like the hurt. And even though it does hurt,
Right.
it hurts, but that it's like sort of lessons and how we, you know, we gather the education from the pain.
Yeah, I think that is, I think the pain that goes into that just sort of, that does boost you, as you say, or that does sort of, I don't say empower, but, you know, strengthens you, I think has been especially clear for me these last sort of, you know, 12, 13 months. I mean, seeing a career that I was solidly focused on in the theater, and for those who don't know, creative, behind the scene, producing, all that good stuff. And just sort of seeing the pain that has been caused from the pandemic that has shuttered an industry, that has really brought down something so special to so many people, including myself. And, you know, pivoting and seeing how things and rethinking things, but also that anguish and pain every day of just not seeing and experiencing and having that art form to you know, take in, that you really is something that, you know, that is painful. I mean, other things too, but that's something that for me that lives with me every day.
Yeah. And this isn't asking us to like delete that.
Right.
Like it's like, well, you're bringing that with you. Like wherever you go, it's going with you, right? Like it's part of you now.
Yes.
And that's not a bad thing, right? Either.
Yeah.
That is how we learn. That is how we are educated. That's how we learn ourselves and how better we can be our own best human, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can see them all next to each other. We've got 1, 2, and 3. And so, right. So we started with our, that way. Great.
Yep.
Perfect.
I see.
We started with our 5 of swords. Oops, nope. We started with our 5 of swords, our card that that is what is helping you, which is sort of this. I mean, and this is also a painful card. Like we talked about that at the beginning, right? Like,
Right.
And so to hear that like pain can be helpful is sort of counterintuitive, but you know, I think when you have the capacity, or when you're building the capacity to move to the next level, it's painful, right? Like it's painful to be sort of reaching your limits of what things have been as you're getting ready to get to what things will be.
Yeah.
And what will hinder you would be to overtend that and overdo it on the attention that you're spending, you know, spending the time that you're spending, the always having to be active in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what your unrealized potential is like, I think using that pain to ascend to what comes next. And pain, of course, like I'm using that word, but like, I mean, we all are going through such a painful time. You know, I was reading that languishing is the new word that everyone's choosing to sort of describe where we're all feeling right now, which is and like, when you break it down, it's like anguishing, right? Mm-hmm. But like long anguishing is how like I break that down. So, you know, that makes sense, but yeah. There we go.
That is so interesting. And so, I mean, it says a lot. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I will I'll take a picture of these and I will send them to you so that you have it for yourself. Do you have any questions about any of it? How, like, this was your first ever tarot reading, right?
Yeah, well, it was my second. I had one done back in like September, but I haven't done them often, and so it's and I have to go back and look at what that one was. But yeah, I'm in a different place than I was before, and so I was curious now to sort of see. So, and now, are the tarot cards? Is it with what you pull? Is that definite? Is that like, all of those are for sure, or is it sort of just the realm that you're in right now, and right now could be, the rest of the
it's always representative of how you show up in the moment the reading is happening. I had an incredibly emotional sort of roller coaster myself earlier today, where I got an email that like sent me over the edge with joy and like relief and affirmation and validation that what I was doing was the right thing. And then 4 minutes later got an email that like tried to put me in my place, and like my stomach dropped. And so like going on this like crazy emotional journey, and I pulled a card right then. And like that card was very reflective of what, or actually I pulled a whole spread, to tell you the truth. I did 7 cards, and that was very reflective on where I was in that moment.
Wow.
If I get off of this call with you and go do another one, it's going to be a completely different reading, because I'm now in not even a completely different space. I'm just like in a different enough space that it would be different, because it's a snapshot of like where you are internally at the moment that you're doing the reading.
I say, wow. Okay, that's really, really interesting. Wow. Well, Emily, why don't you tell us where we can learn more about you? I know you do offer this to people. They can have sessions with you and everything. So where can we find you? And
yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Emily Ann MCG. It's Emily Ann with an E and an E MCG. And my website is emilymcgillentertainment.com. So you can hit me up there as well. You can schedule a reading right through the website if you're interested. And I would love to. I do hour-long readings where it's a 7-card pull, and we kind of dive a little bit deeper into things, or we can do a 30-minute reading, which is a little more like what we did today, Rye. That doesn't always include the interview portion. But yeah, and I also do a single card reading where it's about a 15-minute reading. So yeah.
Wow. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being so kind to do this for me, and for I'm so excited that you have found something that makes you sparkle and makes you even more excited. And this was really informative, and really just has me thinking in good ways, and really processing.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about tarot, is that it offers us a new perspective. I think so many of us get really stuck in like, this is how I see things, this is how my worldview is, and I don't always understand how to see things from another perspective without someone else offering it. And so that's why I love the tarot, because it's sort of myself offering myself a different perspective.
That's great. Well, Emily, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.